You are driving home after a long shift. The radio is playing softly, and you are thinking about what to have for dinner. Suddenly, those familiar red and blue lights flash in your rearview mirror. Your heart skips a beat. You aren't a criminal. You haven't been drinking. And as far as you know, you weren't even speeding. But in the next 10 seconds, you are going to make a choice. It is a split-second reaction, something almost instinctive, that most people don't even realize they are doing. And yet, that tiny 10-second window is exactly where most people accidentally hand the police the legal keys to their entire life. I am talking about the mistake that grants law enforcement probable cause on a silver platter, allowing them to bypass the Fourth Amendment protections you probably think are ironclad. As a lawyer who has spent years dissecting dashcam footage and cross-examining officers, I can tell you that the battle for your rights isn't won in a courtroom 6 months later. It is won or lost in those first 10 seconds on the side of the road. Before we get into the what of this mistake, we have to understand the why of the legal framework. Most people have heard the term probable cause, but few actually know what it means in the heat of a traffic stop. To pull you over, an officer only needs reasonable suspicion, a flickering taillight, a failure to signal a turn for the full 100 feet, or even touching the white line can give them a reason to stop you. But to search your car, to look through your trunk, or to go through your glove box, they need something much higher. They need probable cause. This means they need specific, articulable facts that would lead a reasonable person to believe a crime is being committed, or that evidence of a crime is hidden in that specific location. Without it, they are legally stuck on the outside of your car looking in. Unless, of course, you give it to them. So what is the 10-second mistake? It isn't what you say, although that comes later. It is how you move. The moment those lights go on, the officer isn't just looking at your license plate. They are looking at the silhouette of your head and shoulders through the rear window. In those 10 seconds while you are pulling over, many drivers do something called furtive movements. They reach for their registration in the glove box. They shove their phone under the seat. They lean over to the passenger side to hide a bag or straighten up some trash. To you, you are just getting prepared for the interaction. To the officer, you are concealing contraband or reaching for a weapon. That 10-second flurry of movement inside the cabin is the #1 thing written in police reports to justify a warrantless search. The officer will testify that they observed the driver making frantic, furtive movements toward the floorboard, creating a fear for officer safety, and providing the probable cause needed to bypass your consent. The law gives police a huge amount of leeway when it comes to officer safety. This is the ultimate trump card in the legal world. If an officer can convince a judge that your movements made them believe you were grabbing a weapon, they are allowed to perform what is known as a Terry frisk of the vehicle. This isn't just a pat down of your person. It is a limited search of the areas within the driver's immediate reach where a weapon might be hidden. Now, here is the kicker. If they find something else while looking for a weapon, say, a small bag of something they shouldn't find, it is perfectly admissible in court because they had a legal right to be in that space. Your 10 seconds of getting ready just became the legal bridge they needed to search your car without a warrant. So how do you handle those first 10 seconds correctly? You do absolutely nothing. You pull over safely in a well-lit area. You put the car in park. You roll down your window, and you place your hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. Do not reach for your ID. Do not reach for your insurance. Do not try to clean up the French fry containers on the floor. Wait for the officer to approach. Wait for them to ask for your documents. And then, here is the pro tip. Tell them exactly what you were doing before you do it. Say, "Officer, my license is in my pocket. I am reaching for it now." This eliminates the furtive movement argument entirely. You are removing the officer's ability to claim they were alarmed by your sudden reaches. But the 10-second mistake often evolves into a conversation. Once the officer is at your window, the probable cause hunt continues. They are looking for the plain view or plain smell doctrine. If you roll down your window and there is a faint scent of something herbal, or if there is a tiny glass pipe sitting in your center console that you forgot about, those are plain view observations that immediately grant probable cause. But even if your car is spotless and you haven't been doing anything wrong, the officer will likely ask you a very specific, very dangerous question. Do you know why I pulled you over? This is a trap. If you say, "I guess I was speeding a little bit," you have just confessed to a crime. You have handed them the evidence they need for the ticket and potentially opened the door for a longer detention. The correct answer is always, "I don't know, officer," followed by silence. Silence is your most powerful tool, but it is also the hardest one to use. Humans are social creatures. We want to explain ourselves. We want to be liked. We want the officer to think we are one of the good ones. But you have to understand that in a criminal investigation, you cannot talk your way out of trouble, but you can very easily talk your way asterisk into asterisk. Every word you speak is being recorded. If you are nervous and your voice cracks, the officer will write subject appeared extremely nervous and evasive. If you talk too much, they will write subject was overly talkative. A common sign of being under the influence. You cannot win the talking game. This brings us to the most common way probable cause is manufactured after the initial stop, the request for consent. The officer might say, "You don't mind if I take a quick look in the trunk, do you? If you have nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a problem." This is the ultimate psychological pressure tactic. They are implying that if you refuse, you are guilty. But legally, a refusal to search is asterisk, never asterisk, probable cause. You can refuse a search for any reason or no reason at all, and a judge cannot use that refusal against you. However, many people fold. They think that by being cooperative, the officer will go easy on them. In reality, the moment you say okay, you have waived your Fourth Amendment rights. Now the officer doesn't need probable cause. They can take the car apart at the seams, and anything they find is fair game. I always tell my clients to use the magic words. These aren't an aggressive "I know my rights" shout. That just makes the officer want to find a reason to ruin your day. The magic words are calm, polite, and firm. "Officer, I don't consent to any searches." That's it. If they ask why, you say, "I've been advised by my lawyer never to consent to a search." This shifts the blame to a third party, the lawyer, and keeps the interaction professional. If the officer searches you anyway, do not physically resist. That is a separate crime. Just keep repeating, "I do not consent to this search." If they didn't have probable cause, everything they find will be tossed out by a judge later, but only if you didn't give them consent. Let's talk about another 10-second window that happens later in the stop. The extended detention. Once the officer has given you the ticket or the warning, the legal reason for the stop is over. At this point, the Supreme Court has ruled in a case called Rodriguez v. United States that the police cannot hold you for even an extra minute just to bring a canine dog or to continue questioning you. But they get around this by making it a voluntary interaction. They will hand you your license and say, "Have a nice day." Then, as you start to put the car in gear, they say, "Oh, by the way, do you have a second to answer a few more questions?" If you say yes, you have just re-engaged in a voluntary encounter. The clock starts over, and you are no longer detained, you are chatting. And during that chat, you might accidentally give them the probable cause they were looking for. The 10-second rule here is to ask, "Officer, am I free to go?" If they say yes, you leave immediately. If they say no, you stop talking and wait for your lawyer. Many people think that if they are innocent, they shouldn't care about probable cause. This is a dangerous way of thinking. Imagine you bought a used car 3 months ago. You don't know what the previous owner dropped between the seats. Imagine you gave a ride to a friend last week who left something in the back pocket of the passenger seat. If you consent to a search, or if your furtive movements give the officer probable cause, you are now legally responsible for whatever is in that car. "It's not mine" is a defense that almost never works on the side of the road. Your job is to prevent the search from ever happening in the first place by protecting your legal perimeter. The furtive movement trap is especially prevalent in nighttime stops. Officers are naturally more on edge when it is dark. They use high-powered spotlights that wash out the interior of your car, making it impossible for you to see them while they can see your every twitch. If you realize you are being pulled over at night, turn on your interior dome light immediately. This is a massive signal to the officer that you aren't trying to hide anything. It shows them the interior of the car is clear and that your hands are visible. This simple 10-second act can de-escalate a situation faster than any amount of polite conversation. It removes the fear of the unknown that often leads an officer to manufacture probable cause for a search. The role of technology in probable cause is also changing. We have to address the phone mistake. Many people, when pulled over, immediately grab their phone to start recording. While you have a First Amendment right to record the police, how you grab that phone matters. If you dive for your phone in the center console as the officer is approaching, that looks exactly like a furtive movement for a weapon. The officer sees you reaching for a dark, rectangular object. They don't know it's an iPhone. For all they know, it's a high-capacity magazine. If you want to record, have your phone mounted on a dashboard holder where you don't have to reach for it. If you have to reach, wait until the officer is at the window and tell them, "Officer, I am going to reach for my phone to record this interaction for my safety and yours." Another hidden danger is the canine sniff. In many jurisdictions, the police will bring a dog to walk around your car. They claim the dog alerted, which provides immediate probable cause to search the entire vehicle. But here is the secret. Many canine alerts are prompted by the handler. It's called the clever Hans effect. The dog wants to please the handler, so if the handler pauses or makes a specific gesture, the dog sits or barks. If you are waiting for a dog, those 10 seconds of alerting are often the most controversial part of a trial. This is why having your own dashcam recording the dog's behavior can be the difference between a conviction and a dismissal. You want to see if that dog actually smelled something, or if it just wanted a tennis ball from its handler. What about the smell of marijuana? In states where cannabis is now legal, the plain smell doctrine is in a state of flux. In some states, the smell of burnt or raw cannabis no longer provides probable cause for a search because the substance is legal. However, in many other states, it still does. And even in legal states, it can be used to justify a DUI investigation. The officer will use the smell to get you out of the car for field sobriety tests. Once you are out of the car, they will look for clues in your eyes or your balance. These clues are highly subjective. Subject failed to follow instructions, or subject had eyelid tremors are phrases used to create the probable cause for an arrest. The 10-second mistake here is agreeing to the tests. In many states, you are not legally required to perform field sobriety tests. The dancing on one leg or the following the pen with your eyes. These are voluntary. You can and often should politely refuse them, though you should be aware that refusing a breathalyzer at the station often carries an automatic license suspension. Let's talk about pretextual stops. This is a legal term for when a cop pulls you over for something tiny, like a cracked windshield, because they actually suspect you of something much bigger but don't have the evidence. They are fishing. They are waiting for you to make that 10-second mistake. They want you to act nervous. They want you to reach under the seat. They want you to give conflicting stories about where you are coming from. If you are coming from a high-crime area, which is police speak for any neighborhood they decide to label as such, they are already looking for a reason to search you. Your goal during a pretextual stop is to be the most boring person the officer has ever met. You are a robot. You provide your documents. You answer "I don't know" to the trap questions, and you wait for your ticket. Don't try to be funny. Don't try to be smart. Just be boring. There is a psychological concept called the authority bias. Most of us were raised to respect the uniform. When an officer tells us to do something, we feel a deep internal pressure to comply. The police are trained to exploit this. They don't always order you to do things. They ask in a way that sounds like an order. "You don't mind if I look in here, do you?" Or "Step out of the car for me." If an officer says "step out of the car," that is usually a lawful command based on a Supreme Court case called Pennsylvania v. Mims. You should comply with that. But if they say "you don't mind if I pat you down for weapons," that is often a request for consent. You can say, "Officer, I am stepping out because you ordered me to, but I don't consent to any searches of my person or my vehicle." This distinguishes between compliance with authority and waiver of rights. I've seen cases where a driver made a 10-second mistake by simply being too helpful. They had nothing to hide. So when the officer asked, "Is there anything in the car I should know about?" they said, "Oh, just some old fireworks from the 4th of July." In that jurisdiction, those fireworks might be illegal or require a permit the driver didn't have. Suddenly, that helpful comment provided probable cause for an arrest and a full vehicle impound. The rule is simple. If the officer is asking about the contents of your car, they are looking for a reason to search it. The only correct answer is "There is nothing illegal in my car, and I don't consent to any searches." Another area where people fail is the passenger mistake. If you have passengers in your car, you are responsible for their 10 seconds too. If the officer pulls you over and your passenger starts moving around or trying to hide something, you are the one who is going to be sitting on the curb while the car is searched. Before you even put the car in drive, you should have a rule if we get pulled over. Everyone stays still and keeps their hands visible. A passenger's furtive movement is legally attributed to the driver's environment, providing the probable cause the officer needs to search the entire passenger cabin. The tension of the stop is something officers are trained to manage, but you can manage it too. If you are being pulled over, the first 10 seconds set the temperature of the interaction. If you pull over abruptly, or if you stop in a place that is dangerous for the officer, like on a narrow bridge, you are starting the temperature at a boil. Pull over as far to the right as possible. Give the officer a safety lane. This small act of courtesy can actually make them more relaxed and less likely to go hunting for probable cause. A relaxed officer is an officer who just wants to write a ticket and move on to the next call. An on-edge officer is one who is looking for a reason to search your car for safety. We also have to discuss the digital probable cause. In today's world, your phone is a goldmine of information. Many officers will ask, "Hey, can I see that photo you just took? Or can you show me your GPS so I can see where you were coming from?" If you hand them your phone and it is unlocked, you have just consented to a search of your entire digital life. Your text messages, your photos, your search history, everything is now in their hands. The Supreme Court ruled in Riley v. California that police generally need a warrant to search a phone, but that doesn't apply if you give them consent. Never, under any circumstances, unlock your phone for the police without a warrant. If they want it, let them go to a judge and prove they have probable cause. The duration of the stop is a key legal concept. The police can only hold you for the time it takes to address the traffic violation that warranted the stop and attend to related safety concerns. This means checking your license, looking for warrants, and writing the ticket. If they are finished with that and start asking you about your travel plans or your political beliefs, they are fishing. Those 10 seconds when they hand you the ticket and then say, "But wait," are the most important 10 seconds of the stop. That is when you need to ask, "Am I free to go?" It is a binary switch. If the answer is no, then you have been officially detained beyond the scope of the traffic stop, and the officer better have a very good articulable reason for it, or the whole stop becomes illegal. Most people don't realize that probable cause is a totality of the circumstances test. It's not usually one thing, it's a pile of things. The officer puts subject was in a high crime area. Subject made a furtive movement. Subject had shaking hands, and subject gave conflicting stories together in a pile. Alone, none of those are probable cause. Together, they create a reasonable belief. Your job is to make sure there is nothing in that pile. If you stay still, stay silent, and stay polite, the officer has nothing to put in the pile. They might still search you. Some cops break the rules. But your lawyer will have a much easier time getting the case dismissed if you didn't help the officer build that totality. The Miranda rights mistake is another big one. Many people think the police have to read you your rights as soon as they pull you over. That is not true. Miranda only applies to custodial interrogation. This means you have to be in custody, essentially arrested, and being interrogated, asked questions meant to elicit an incriminating response. A traffic stop is generally not considered custody for Miranda purposes. This means anything you say during the stop can be used against you even if they never read you your rights. Don't wait for the right to remain silent to be told to you. You already have it. Use it from the first 10 seconds. I've seen so many lives changed because of a 10-second lapse in judgment. Someone who had nothing to do with a crime gets a search incident to arrest because they made a furtive movement that looked like they were reaching for a weapon. Inside the car, the officer finds something that was left there by a previous passenger or friend. Now that person is in the system, facing thousands of dollars in legal fees and years of stress, all because they tried to reach for their registration too fast. The legal system doesn't care if you were just trying to be helpful. It cares about what can be proven in a report. Protecting yourself is about discipline. It is about staying calm when your heart is pounding. It is about understanding that the side of the road is a theater, and everyone has a role. The officer's role is to find evidence. Your role is to protect your rights. If you don't play your role, the officer will play it for you. The Fourth Amendment is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. By refusing consent and staying still, you are exercising that constitutional muscle. In conclusion, those first 10 seconds are the most dangerous part of any police interaction. If you can master those 10 seconds by pulling over safely, keeping your hands visible, and remaining silent, you have already won 80% of the legal battle. You are taking the probable cause toolbox away from the officer and forcing them to follow the strict letter of the law. You are moving the fight from the side of the road, where the officer has all the power, to the courtroom, where the law has the power. Knowledge is the only thing that levels the playing field. The police have years of training in how to secure probable cause. Most citizens have zero training in how to protect their rights. I hope this explanation helps you understand the heavy weight of those first few seconds. Your freedom and your future. Keep your hands on the wheel, keep your mouth shut, and keep your rights intact. The more you know, the less likely you are to become a statistic in a police report justified by a 10-second mistake. Stay safe, stay informed, and always remember that you are your own best advocate when the lights start flashing. The law is there to protect you, but only if you know how to use it.